Hey, glad to have you here. We are in a business coaches lab, building an enduring business culture. Probably one of the biggest and most important topics that business coaches and or that I know you guys are talking about, but the service professional needs to have. Um, the longer organizations look for a competitive advantage and a sustainable way to grow their organizations, the more important culture becomes. So if you're a leader looking to create, improve, or nurture your organization's culture, you have come to the right place. With me is Bob Greenwood from the Automotive Aftermarket E-Learning Center. Hello, Bob.
Good day.
Rick White, 180 Biz. Cecil Bullard, the Institute for Business Excellence, and Murray Voth, RPM Trainings. So I want to start with you, Rick. Can you define culture for us?
I think culture is simply an environment where people can flourish and grow. I mean, if you think back to the old days, when you talked about a culture, it was typically medical. They would take a swab of something and they would put it in a petri dish, and then they would put it in a warm spot. So they were creating an environment to see what could grow, and that was the culture. And I think the important thing is to understand, everybody, I talk to shop owners and they're passing themselves as they walk, through their day. And I think you got to understand why culture is important. It's not just to make it a great place to work. It's not so you all can sit around a fire and sing Kumbaya. The reality is culture is going to attract the best people, and it's going to help you make more money because it takes friction out of your business. That's why you want culture.
Yeah, I think it also changes your life because
it does.
When you have a business that runs well and people are all on the same page, going towards the same direction, then your life is easier. There's less hecticness or whatever you want to call it, and
stress.
A lot less stress. Yeah. So I'm so into culture that I've actually hired consultants every year and brought my people from all over the country into our facility for 2 days to just talk about the company culture and create the company culture that we want.
Sure. The culture is what you stand for. Yeah. Who are you? And I don't think enough shop owners have given a lot of thought. Who do they really want to be, and what do they want their business to look like and stand for, so that when their company's name is mentioned in the public, people have that vision as to what they are and who they are and how they do business. That culture is everything in building your company today.
Guys, you're onto something really big here. And if I was listening at the other end and I'd say, okay, great. So what really is it, and how do I define it, and how do I establish it? And are there words on the wall? And it goes back to vision, mission, values. Am I right?
Well, I'm just a shop owner, and we're just a business that fixes cars. Why do I need all this crap? That's the question, and the answer is I need a good mission statement that we believe in and that we live, because it makes my people think in a very specific way about my company. Not necessarily even the people outside, the people inside. How they think about your business is your culture.
Absolutely.
And your culture of what you're defining, Cecil, is absolutely bang on. Culture is accountability internally.
That's a good piece. There's a good piece to it. Yes.
Everybody has each other's back. That's a culture.
I was just in a shop yesterday, and nobody's on the same page. There's no goals. It's we need to fix cars. Well, okay, but it isn't fixing cars. It's taking care of people. It's taking care of the people that you have in your staff. It's taking care of the customers, making them feel like they're a part of it, making them feel like I'm going to be successful. In the shop that I was just at, you have a bunch of long-term employees. None of them believe that the company can change. Not a one of them. Yeah. They're all stuck in this 1980s culture in their company, and they're all giving up. They've all given up completely, and they're just hanging in just because there's
which is still a culture. Yeah, if you ask that question, does every employee understand their role and what is required of them specifically in the shop and how their actions affect the shop. And that communication has to take place between management and the team. And if management's not even considering that, then everybody there is just floating around doing something, not understanding why or how and what it means. And that culture doesn't exist. You don't have a culture.
Absolutely. And purpose is so important, because in the absence of purpose, making money takes over. And when you have a bunch of people, you have techs and advisors, and they think they're only there to make money for the company, it can make them feel dirty. It can make them feel sleazy. It can make them feel like they're trying to do something. But when you have a purpose, when you have a reason that you're there, and, you know, let's say you're a shop owner and in your travels as a tech or an advisor, you saw people taken advantage of, and that just hurt you from here. And you decided that you were going to create a safe haven for your customers. That's different than making money. It gets your people rallying behind you. You have a common destination, and it makes them feel good to do what they're doing.
You know, you used the term earlier, Rick, called friction. And I've been hearing more and more about this, where we as business owners, whether it be a shop, an airline, a hotel, a training company, we create friction for our customers or our clients to receive the services. We actually put things in their way, right? And I ran across a great question about 3 months ago called, what is the difference between customer service and customer experience, which is another 5 episodes, Carm. But the idea is, you know, customer service, I shook their hand, I smiled, I said hi, and the car was done on time. Okay, well, that's customer service. But did I remove all the obstacles from that experience that day? And if I don't have a culture that focuses on the client's experience, right, you're not going to make money. You're just going to be a place that churns cars, like the guy that Cecil referred to, right? So reducing friction inside the business also reduces friction for the clientele as well, right? It benefits both sides of it.
Yeah. I think you have to start with who do I want to be, you know, and that's pretty clear to me. I want to be honest. I want to be a stand-up guy. I want to be a guy that does what he says. I want to be a guy that my employees look up to. I want to be a guy that's progressive, that takes things forward as much as possible. I want to be pushing the envelope. I mean, I don't know how not to, but these are things that I have to be. So my business has to supply that for me. And if I do that, and people understand who they are and why they're here, then they work so much harder, and they appreciate so much more, and they recognize their successes. Mm-hmm. I think one of the biggest problems we have in our industry is that there's a lack of targets and goals. They're not clear for people, and people over time get depressed because they work and they don't know when they're successful. They don't know when they're achieving and when they're winning the game. And I think creating a culture of winning. I mean, in our preliminary stuff, there were some, I don't know who said it, but somebody kind of brought out, you know, creating that culture of winning, or a culture of production in your business, or, you know, a culture of honesty. You know, but it never, you have a culture, like it or not. Whatever happens in your business. If you don't actively think about it and document it and work towards it with your staff, you're not going to get the one you want. And the one you want is the one that's most likely to make you most successful. And the one that happens is the one that's most likely not to make you successful. Not to take that friction.
And you know, when you have that culture, Cecil, it also changes your interviewing techniques, because now you're looking at, will that person be able to fit into our culture?
Absolutely.
You know, and that's your personalities now coming together. And, you know, just emphasizing what you were saying, we need more effective and consistent implementation of our ideas in a shop, decisions and processes in a shop. But here's the catch. You want to talk about defined success. You can't do anything and move the shop forward unless you define dates for completion and implementation. So that's, you know, and that's that you've got to have defined dates. In other words, by October 15th, we want to have this achieved. Now we can see, are we moving the company forward? We can see our progress and our successes. And so the team.
That's a necessary strategy for managing people. You know, clear goals, agreement from people, strategy, time frames, people that are accountable, and then follow-up consequences. All of those things have to exist in order to really manage somebody and get what you need from them. Now, I'm not saying that you don't get lucky every once in a while and you hire just the right person who is going to do all this all on their own. But you know, I always say even a blind dog finds a fire hydrant every once in a while. But you're most of the time, you're not going to find that person unless you develop that person in a very conscious way.
You know, I'd like to go ahead.
Hang on a minute, Marie. I'm going to bring you right back. You know, performance and reliability, that's what Jasper's remanufactured diesel engines provide mile after mile. Hey, Jasper makes the lights on for this show, so we need to give him a high five here. Jasper's running complete engines are dynamometer tested with horsepower and torque ratings recorded. There's a nationwide warranty included too. So talk about dependable service. You get it from JasperEngines.com. Thanks, Jasper, for your support. Murray, you were going to say?
I was going to say I was working with somebody 2 days ago, and I said, myself included, when I had my shop, every shop owner has at least hired one employee that they lucked out on. The person joined, they were engaged, they brought that piece of it. And so we live our lives waiting for another one of those to show up, as opposed to what you said, Cecil and Bob, interview for the position, Cecil trained for that kind of a person. And, right. So but because we've had that taste of it, I tease my clients. I said, you're waiting for the right person to drop in your lap. And they're like, yeah, I guess so. I says, well, what about advertising properly? Things like that. But I also wanted to talk about the guy that that phrase you use, Cecil, about what's with this culture thing. Sorry, I got the sunshine coming in here. I'm going to have to sit back a little bit. What's with this culture thing? Like, we just fix cars, right? Well, the idea of a business culture is relatively new concept in business, like however, 30, 40, 50 years, right? During the Industrial Revolution, you know, there was so many people looking for work at the textile factories in Birmingham somewhere that people just died if they didn't come to work. You know, there was no culture. If you didn't work, you didn't eat, right? Now we have a shortage of employees. We have lots of competition. Clients have so many choices out there. How do we differentiate ourselves? So this culture thing is really, really important. And the last thing I wanted to say on this section was, Cecil, you talked about the shop that you talked to where these long-term employees are still hanging in there. And it's like, well, it's a culture of having given up.
Yes.
Right? But I wanted to say every single family, my family, you know, different families, we have a culture, right? That goes back centuries. Thousands of years. Every family has a culture, and every family has its dysfunctions, right? We talk about being a family business. Come work for me. I'm a family business. And technicians and service advisors should go, I don't want to work for a family business because I don't know your unwritten rules. I don't know your dysfunctions. I don't know how I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to go work for a big corporation that has an employee handbook.
I got to add something to the beginning of what you were saying. It is so important that the owner or the manager or both live the culture that they want to create. I mean, it doesn't matter what you say. I mean, I see owners who say one thing and they do something else completely, and they're sending mixed signals to their employees. And the employees are always going to look at what you do, not what you say.
Yeah.
So if you have a culture of productivity and you're not talking about productivity and you're not working towards productivity, then you don't have a culture of productivity. You know, if you have a culture of honesty and integrity and you're not having those conversations with your people and you're not making sure that happens in your own business, then you don't have that culture. And you're never going to have that culture unless you actively work towards it. If you know, as an owner or a leader in my own company, I have to live it 24/7. And I have to push it 24/7.
Hey guys,
otherwise, they don't get it.
Is purpose and values one of the anchors, foundations of the business culture?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Purpose is everything. And
Okay, so great. If I'm listening, think of our shop owner out there and says, "Okay, guys, I'm loving this. I'm getting this, but how do I How do I get my purpose? What do I do?
We have 3 documents that we have created in our company. We have our mission statement, better business, better life, better industry. We believe that if we help shop owners improve their businesses, that the lives of the people that work there, the families, and even the customers will have a better experience, and that will improve our industry. We have the 4 pillars for our business. We have to have relevance. In other words, we have to stay relevant in the industry. We have to make a difference for our clients. Everybody has to win. The customer has to win. The employee has to win. The owner has to win. And it has to be fun. And last document, we have an ethics statement that's like 5 pages that states who we will work with, how we think about that. Even in our ethics document, it says if we believe that they're not doing something good for our industry, we will work against that and never partner with somebody like that in our company.
I don't need something like that. Cecil's off the wall. Why do I'm a shop owner. I've got a 4-bay operation. I don't need to do that.
Of course you do. You absolutely have to, because that's what's going to direct your people. And then you have to live it, which is even, the hard part. I mean, you have to live it every day. And when somebody or something happens that's outside of that, you have to go, that's not okay. Let me explain to you why. Here, let's pull the document back out. When your employees understand who you are and really get it, then they're all moving in the right direction. I mean, Bob talks about goals and goal setting and having people that can be successful. If they don't know what that is, if you haven't defined that for them, then you're never going to get what you want.
Right.
And putting it in writing is one of the hardest things for an owner to do, because you have a picture in your mind that you have to put into words.
Well, why should it be the owner?
I think it has to be everybody. I think
everybody's going to end up at it starts with the owner, and then the owner now takes it to the team for discussion and improvement and getting the depth put together as a team.
Any corporate work I've ever done on mission, vision, values, and purpose, it's always been the team. And it was always facilitated by someone. And, the owner can do that as long as the owner doesn't put blinders on and keeps it, wide open.
That's the problem.
I think, okay. Well, then that's why we're doing this. We're doing this to teach our CEOs that are out there what the steps are, is to help build an enduring culture.
But I think there's a really key management concept here that is important. And it's also a key leadership concept. I come in with the basic idea. I've already decided who I want to be. I decided what my business needs to achieve. And that's not just money. Money's a part of it, but it's several other things. Then I go to my staff and I say, look, we want to be a company that is like this. Guys, what do you think about that? And my staff goes, hey, I really like that, but if you stated it this way. I mean, Carm, you were involved, and some of the guys here were involved in our last meeting of coaches and consultants, where we were talking about wording on certain things. And, in an hour, we went through several things, shortened them, made them very clear, very understandable. And by the way, they're not Cecil's things. They're everybody's things, because we all worked on it. But we started with a fundamental piece. You can't go in and go, hey guys, we need culture, so you figure it out. You have to go in and go, we need culture, and here's what I think is most important. Now, what do you think?
It was also wide open too.
Yes.
Meaning that there wasn't anything off the table, and then you sit on it, you incubate it for a while, you get back with the team and says, hey, let's go over this. And all of a sudden, I think magic starts to happen, especially after someone incubates the thought of what our purpose, our values, our standards, our mission, our vision are. And you know what? There's going to be so many people that are going to go through this, Rick, that they're going to be unsure of why the hell are we doing this, but the spoils and the rewards afterwards.
Here's the thing. I think you should have a culture that inspires people to come to work. I think you have to have a culture that makes them feel safe while they're there. And I think you have to have a culture that makes them feel fulfilled when they go home.
Amen.
And that doesn't happen by a team at the beginning. I believe it has to happen from me internally first as an owner of a business, because I have to stay passionate about it and I have to be excited about it. And then when I have that in place, not only is it going to be great, it's going to be a great way to help focus me on who's a good hire, right? Who's going to be a good add to the team. It's also going to attract people to me that have the same vision and desire to help and serve that I do. So it's so important, like Cecil said, I truly believe it starts with the owner first, at least the kernel, and then it develops with the team.
Carmen, you brought up about the why the owner. Well, Rick went with the bugs and the bacteria. I'm going to go back cultural anthropology, right? Since the beginning of human beings, there's always evolved somebody who led the group, whether it was a little tribe of hunter-gatherers, whether it was a larger group. Somebody rose to the top for whatever reason, right? I do believe that we as human beings, as a group, look to someone, or we take that position in that group, whether it be a nuclear family, whether it be, a shop, a church, you need that piece of it. And tagging on with what Rick said, it does start with the owner, but I think we're talking in some pretty big things here, like Cecil's stuff. It's like, I want to take that class with those 4 pillars, right? Like I'm sitting there going, but shop owners are going, I don't know even where to start. And I've been starting some of my clients, the newest ones, with having, and I've mentioned this before, a 7-minute toolbox meeting every day. And they look at me and they go, every day? I go, yeah. What are the topics? I says, choose 2. How, blah, blah, blah. And I said, the most important thing, and he said, what if everybody doesn't show up? I said, run it anyways.
Yeah.
You might have a technician on a test drive. You might have a service advisor giving a client a ride home. You might have an employee showing up late. If you have that meeting every day, even if it's just one topic every day for the first month, and somebody misses the meeting, they're going to ask the rest of the tribe, hey, what did you guys talk about? It creates a culture of that. And then people say to me, well, can I delegate that to my advisor or to my tech? I said, not yet. I said, you have to, the key thing about that toolbox meeting is you're in front. I find about 3/4 of shop owners don't want to be the woman or the guy or the gal in front. They just want to be in the background, this humble little mechanic who owns this business and doesn't want to be the boss of everybody. That's a default setting for a culture. Like you guys somebody said that at the beginning of the session, right? That's a default setting with not taking leadership. You have to be, just the physical presence of being in front of the room begins to set the tone of your company.
And that daily scrum is important because that is your opening to 2-way communication. And when the owner leads it in the beginning, that allows the owner to finally communicate the vision, the culture to be developed.
I'm going to go to Cecil next. And the reason that I'm going to go to Cecil next is because I think there's this hanging word over here, Cecil, and it's leadership.
Congratulations. You decided to be a business owner. You put yourself in that position. There has to be a leader. And I tell shop owners all the time, there's something else I want to talk about because I think it needs to be said. But I tell shop owners all the time that if you want to be the guy working on cars in the back and that's all you want to do, that's okay. But you have to hire somebody that can then lead and run the company. You have to have that body, because somebody's going to do that job, whether you do it or not in your company, and you want the right person doing it in the right way. Now, I need to make another point because it's so essential. Maslow says that people that are worried about their basic needs cannot think of higher function things. In the terms of employees, if they're worried about getting a paycheck or being safe at work or any of that, they cannot think about how do I do my job better? How do I create a better culture within my company? How do I solve the problems of the company so that the company can be more successful, so that I can be more successful? So we have to create safety and security for our employees. And that's an essential concept of long-term success within our business. And I think that absolutely has to be said. If your people don't feel like you've got their back, or that they're going to be successful there, or they're starving, then they can't think about other things that you want them to think about and work in other ways that you need them to work. And you're right, Carm, leadership is such an essential piece of this. I have to create communication. I'm not a 5-minute scrum guy. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do. I'm a guy that says every meeting we need to be meeting with every week. We need to be meeting with our employees and having a discussion about some topic that's the most important topic today in our company. And it may just be who we are and what we stand for. Until we get that down, and until we figure that, and by the way, that's a living document. Next year we'll have another meeting with our staff, and we'll spend another 2 days discussing our 4 pillars and discussing our mission statement. And do we want to make adjustments to that? Is there something that we need to add to that we didn't know this year to make us better?
You know what? Let me ask Murray, Bob. You guys are very much into the quick meetings, the daily, and I'm wondering if you're not doing any of that, and you know that you've got to have an enduring culture, and you need to start building. Is communication in this kind of style, startup, small, easy, daily, lead into what Cecil's talking about?
Only if the owner or leader is going to listen.
Yeah.
Because to get the culture, it has to be two-way communication, which means shut your hole and listen.
A culture is not dictatorship. You don't dictate a culture, you're listening.
So I think there's another, again, it's not just listening, it takes activity. When you come into a company that has bad culture, so let's say I'm a small business owner and I'm very frustrated with my company. It's leading me by the nose. I'm not getting what I want. That's an unhealthy culture. So what I do is I consciously find something that I can do, and I tell the employees, I say, hey guys, what should we do here? And they go, oh, could you clean the bathroom? Well, I can do that. That can get done. I can make sure that gets done. Can you paint the wall? You need to find things that your people are talking about that you can actually then go do to prove to them that you're listening.
Can you?
So it's not. Yeah, action has to happen.
Always, because listen, when it comes to all of this, it's not about what you talk about. It's what you're doing and what you accept from other people. Right? That's what your true culture is. You can talk productivity, you can talk growth, you can talk caring, love, hugs, whatever. But until you're the one doing it and you're requiring everybody else to live the same way, then you don't have a culture, you have a speech.
Yeah, it's not real.
So let's define it with 2 words. Define it with 2 words. You know shops that have a job culture, and you know shops that have a career culture. Big difference in the entire atmosphere of the building.
But our whole industry needs to change their idea about this is a career. This is a worthwhile. It's as important as any lawyer, any doctor, any CEO of any big company.
So you're moving your shop to a profession.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm going to go backwards a little bit to what you said about listening, which I think is really, really important. But I also observed over the years working with people is that if you haven't developed a culture of leadership on the part of the owner, and then a culture of meetings, and then into listening, employees won't talk if they don't feel safe. Mm-hmm. You actually have to start having meetings on a regular basis, even if you are the only one speaking, then lead into, in a pretty short time frame, to ask questions. You will have to create a culture that they know they can speak out. That's another piece of the culture. I don't want you just to be a dictator. I agree with that. But many people won't say anything because they don't know if it's safe. They don't know. They haven't had a bad experience yet, but they don't know if it's going to be a good one. So they just keep their mouth shut because that's how they feel safe, right?
Okay, fellas, I'm going to tell you that we have 10 minutes left, and I want to give another thank you to Jasper. You know, as the average age of vehicles keeps rising, your customer's old engine or transmission's going to wear out, and when that day comes, Jasper will be the name to remember. Jasper's remanufactured products cost considerably less than a new vehicle, so it just makes sense to choose Jasper for your customer's drive train. Listen, we have 10 minutes. My thoughts were, I loved where this went. We're going to do a part 2, everyone, so that you know. Could we leave the audience with a little how-tos? I mean, each of you have a perspective. I'm a new client. You realize that you've done all the due diligence and the research. Carm, we're going to sit down. And even if there's you all have 4 different ways. You have 10 minutes. How do we start building an enduring culture?
Well, for me, I start with questions. And, the first thing I ask them there, I ask them, I said, why are you here? Why are you here? What's important to you? And a lot of times they really don't know in the beginning. So it's pulling and extracting that out from them. And then it's getting them to understand that even though, don't let today define what tomorrow can be. This is a library to learn from. It's not a room to live in. Richard Flint says that. I love it. And the reality is we got to have a baseline, and we've got to have an idea of where we want to go. And then it's just, okay, so what are some of the things we can do? And part of it is the first thing you got to do is own where you're at. And so many people don't want to do that. They want to just pretend it's not there, but you can't get better until you own it. And once you own it, then you start to bring your staff into it. And you say, okay, guys, I want to apologize. You know something? We've been like this for such a long time, and this is my fault, and I'm sorry. And we're going to do a better job with this, and I need your help. Those are two of the most powerful phrases you can say in any business, which is, I'm sorry, and I need your help. It's so important. And once you do that, people that were adversarial before become allies.
Cecil, how about you?
If they believe you.
If they believe you.
And so your actions have to be very consistent with what you're saying. You can't say, I'm sorry for being a jerk and then be a jerk. I always, when we're in a company where we have bad behavior, two owners that can't get along, husband and wife that can't get along, employees that can't get along, what do you do first, right? You have to define what you want. It really is, why am I here? So I agree with Rick. I probably phrase it differently. And in a company, part of that is financial, but it's also, I want people to get along. I don't want to have to answer every question. I want to create a culture of people answering their own questions.
Why don't we get along?
We don't get along because we don't agree. And that's okay. What they don't realize is it's okay to disagree as long as there is communication and the ability to have your opinion and then actually have a good conversation and walk away with somebody else's idea. When you have a company meeting and you're discussing a subject, I don't get what I want all the time, even though I'm the owner. And I have to say something. I tell my employees they work in a democratic republic run by a benevolent dictator. If there's a leader, the leader is the guy or the person or the woman that makes the tough decisions, and somebody has to do that. Mm-hmm. People don't get along because they don't have a way to, he didn't give me what I wanted, so now I'm not going to give him what he wants. And they don't have a way to come to solutions. And by the way, those company meetings, those discussions, sometimes I have to swallow what I got to say and let the employees get it out. And then we have to go in that direction, even though maybe I want to go in a little different direction. And I would say, if it's really, really, really important, then I have to hold my ground. And if it's not that important, if it's not an emergency, if it's not end of the world, then do what the employees want to do. Give them their way.
Thank you. 5 minutes. We've got 5 minutes. Murray?
So I was going to say that I think a lot of us, all human beings, and a lot of our shop owners we work with and their employees haven't been given tools on how to disagree. They haven't been given working skills on how to say I'm sorry. They haven't been given working skills on how to process this, right? Because we come from this rough and tumble, blue collar background, suck it up, get her done. We hold our feelings inside and hopefully everything will work out. And then it bubbles over and we got the mess on the floor that we've got. If I were to give two simple things that people can start with, is at any meetings, whether it's the short ones, the weeklies, the monthly meetings, the culture of, as an employee, as a person, employee or owner, if you have anything negative to bring to the meeting, something that you don't like, you have to come with 2 suggestions of alternative solutions to that problem. You cannot say, I don't like this without having, here's 2 suggestions, because what ends up happening is the meeting flushes down a toilet into this negative session. As soon as they come back with, I have to have 2 positive answers, it changes the culture of meetings. That would be my closing 2 cents.
I want to go to Bob next, but Cecil, and try to answer this in 30 seconds. If we can't get along, is it possible that we actually have no direction, we have no purpose, we have no values to believe in, so that we've got no northbound train?
If you don't have the foundation, you're in trouble no matter where you go.
Okay.
And just briefly, I've been a jerk for a long time as an owner. I'm not going to stop being a jerk completely. We have to ask their permission, and we have to create a way that they can say, hey, Cecil, you're being a jerk, that we'll accept, and then we'll go, oh, crap, I didn't realize I was doing that behavior.
So you've allowed that to happen in your business?
Yeah, we talk about that, frankly.
Okay.
If I'm going to, if I'm raising my voice and I'm starting to get, because I'm an excitable guy, right? And that's scaring people. They have to tell me that because I don't realize it, right? So my employees go, hey, cauliflower, right? Oh, okay, I got it, right? I know, okay, I'll bring it down. That's a tool. Those are tools that you give people.
These are great learning moments, because there's a lot of people that are high dom and are like you, and this is my way, and they've got to open up. They've got to learn to open up, and it goes back to that leadership thing, guys. Just goes back to it. Bob, we've got like 3 minutes. I'll give you the last word.
Part of the culture development starts with the leader, of course, but a real good question to ask in your company is, does everybody have mutual respect for each other? And when you don't have mutual respect, developing that culture is going to be so tough. So you have to take a good look at your own people. Do they respect each other? Do they respect you? You can tell. People patronize. You can tell when that's taking place, that the respect is not there. So building a culture means you've got to start with understanding who you've got on the team and do they respect each other. And when you find that there's conflict between the parties, there's a respect issue. They have differences of opinion. Why? Have you talked it out? Let's discuss that, because you have to have each other's back. And I ask every owner, do you truly believe everybody in your company has your back? No. Oh, does your company, do your team truly believe you have their back? Oh, you got a problem. And you better start communicating and having discussions about it.
Thank you, guys. Off the charts as usual. It's so good to get together with you guys. Our Business Coaches Lab today is Bob Greenwood from Automotive Aftermarket E-Learning Center, Cecil Bullard from the Institute for Business Excellence, Murray Voth, RPM Training, and my good old friend Rick. Rick, you and I are going to be on a panel coming up soon.
Yes.
In Raleigh. How cool is that? Rick White from 180 Biz. Thanks for making this short, tight, to the point. We'll come back for part 2. And let me say this. If anyone listens to this who is starved for building an enduring culture, you guys really helped them get started. Thanks a lot, guys. Enjoy the weekend.